Welcome to Mainland Television News, your local regional television station, coming to you from the Nelson and Tasman region. In today's news, truck driver trapped in cab on Whangamoa Saddle, woman in intensive care following crash at Wakapuauka, white ribbon riders roar into town, and app brings region's history to life and wins funding. A truck driver miraculously escaped serious injury following a dramatic crash on the Whangamoa Saddle early on Tuesday morning. The 53-year-old was trapped in his truck for over an hour after it left the road and collided with a rock wall, crushing the cab around the driver. The accident happened as the truck was descending the western side of the Whangamoa Saddle. Emergency services, including the Nelson Mobile Rescue Helicopter, were dispatched to the scene at around 2:40 a.m. The New Zealand Fire Service, St John ambulance crews and the chopper's onboard intensive care paramedic worked together for around 40 minutes to free the driver from the truck. Amazingly, the truck driver appeared to have escaped serious injury but was airlifted to Nelson Hospital for further assessment. Meanwhile, a woman is in intensive care in Nelson Hospital following a crash at Wakapuauka around 9 a.m. on Monday morning. Police believe the woman, who was the sole occupant of a car travelling towards Nelson, was overtaking a tractor at the time of the crash. The car and tractor made contact and the car ended up in a ditch. It took some time for rescuers to extract her. Traffic was reduced to one lane for several hours. Nelson Marlborough DHB Communications Advisor Catherine Rock told Mainland on Tuesday morning the woman is in a stable condition in ICU. Each November, White Ribbon runs a month-long campaign that culminates on the 25th of November, White Ribbon Day. Last year saw a focus on non-physical violence and generating conversations around men as positive role models, and this year is no different. Motorcyclists from around the country join and ride with the core group of men and women who are riding the length of the country to bring about awareness of eliminating the culture of violence against women and families. The White Ribbon campaign in New Zealand is a meld of the White Ribbon movement in Canada and the United Nations International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women, which is celebrated on the 25th of November each year. Chrissy Small was at Victory Square this week when the motorbike riders arrived in town to be welcomed by the Victory School Kapahaka group led by teacher Rachel Edwards. This White Ribbon event also gave the opportunity for the Te Rito organisation to thank local Maori wardens for their role within the community. There was a small but enthusiastic turnout in the park for the event, and people were encouraged to meet and speak with the riders who'd come from many different backgrounds, but in many cases had had to face up to violence in their own lives from an early age. Chrissy Small caught up with the White Ribbon campaign manager, Rob McCann, at the event, as well as some of the speakers who spoke about the culture of violence and what White Ribbon means for them.
We've come down from Victory Primary School, so it's our bilingual unit, Ngā mana kākano te wairepo. So yeah, they're all excited. Yeah.
So they know what this is about, don't they? White Ribbon Day.
They do. They've been schooled up, so they know what it's all about, and yeah, they're looking forward to performing and supporting the kaupapa.
Men may be the perpetrators. They cause a lot of this, majority of the time. And it's our challenge to be able to look after our women and children to ensure that they have a better lifestyle, certainly than what I did, that's for sure. I know that times are hard, but we must keep on trying to ensure that the best pathways are created for our young ones.
I'm Chuck, and I'm with the Patriot Riders. We're a Nelson, Mainland and West Coast based motorcycle club. And it wasn't until much later in life that I realised that my mum used to say, oh, I got a black eye because I bumped into a door or I'd hit the doorknob. It took us a long time to realise that isn't exactly what happened. It had to be with the violence that was going on in the house. And eventually when we grew up and came a lot older, we eventually managed to stand up to our father and try and stop him doing it. At that stage it was three brothers, and the three of us together decided it was not going to go any further. The thing in those days is it was common, no one cared about it. All they did, everybody could hear the screaming going on in the houses, but they just ignored it because they thought, well, that's their problem, someone else can solve that. They'll sort it out. And one of the things about the white ribbon that's really important is the pledge that we're asking men to take, the promise not to commit, condone or remain silent about violence against women.
Rob McCann, you're the coordinator of this event.
I'm the coordinator of White Ribbon, yep.
Now, how's it been going? You've been travelling around the countryside. Good receptions?
Oh, fabulous. The North Island started on Saturday in Rotorua and is now in Wellington, and the South Island just started in Blenheim, and here we are in Nelson.
And the weather's great.
Oh, it's fabulous. It always is down south. I spent 14 years in Dunedin, so I know what good weather's like.
Yeah. Now, how many riders have you got doing this campaign?
Well, across the whole of New Zealand, around about 30 who take part in the whole of the ride. But what happens is wherever we go, you know, local riders. So we've got 3 or 4 local riders just joined us here, and then we'll pick up some more as we progress, and that's what happens throughout the ride.
So this is about awareness, isn't it, of domestic and family violence?
Well, actually it's more specific than that. It's about men taking responsibility for men's violence towards women. We know that most men aren't violent, but most violence towards women is actually perpetrated by men. So it's getting men off the sidelines and into the equation as part of the solution. And the way in which we're doing that is by promoting the pledge to never commit, condone or remain silent about violence towards women. So we want these good men throughout New Zealand to go, yeah, it's my problem because I've got a mum, I've got a partner, I've got a girlfriend, I've got a wife, I've got a daughter, the list goes on. So it becomes our problem to make this go away.
Right, so it's, even though we've got motorcycles here, it's called breaking the cycle.
So the White Ribbon Riders are fantastic. They're one of our ways of getting the message out through to New Zealand, through to all the communities, and we also have White Ribbon ambassadors who do the same thing. They're all out spreading the message, talking men to men.
That's great. So these events are great for any man that thinks he may have a problem or has a mate that may have a problem. Come along and talk to you guys.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a lot of former perpetrators involved in White Ribbon. They're men who have realised that what they were doing in their family lives was no good, and they'd lost relationships, and they're here now to say, look, there is a better way. So for all those men who do have issues, come and talk to some of these guys. They're not going to judge you. We want men to band together to become part of the solution.
The Environmental Defence Society's appeal relating to King Salmon Limited's proposal to establish a marine farm at Port Gore started in the Supreme Court on Tuesday this week, and it's scheduled to run for up to 3 days. Save Our Sounds is also appealing the approval of 4 sites. The EDS appeal is against an earlier decision of the High Court but was unsuccessful. The Environmental Defence Society then successfully sought to appeal that decision to the Supreme Court. The EDS case is based on the interpretation by the Board of Inquiry and the High Court of the New Zealand Coastal Policy Statement 2010. EDS contends that on a correct interpretation of 2 policies, the board, having found the site was an outstanding landscape and had outstanding natural character, should have been declined. Also being questioned is whether the board was obliged to consider alternative sites when determining a private plan change that results in significant adverse effects on an outstanding natural landscape. In February, the EPA allowed 4 out of 9 salmon farms proposed by New Zealand King Salmon to proceed, creating around 200 jobs. And finally, a project called HEART, led by an NMIT student, to develop an augmented reality application to bring the region's history to life, has recently been awarded funding. I spoke with project leader, 29-year-old David Bryden, about his exciting new digital media application. Now, you're a student at NMIT. What are you studying?
I'm doing the Bachelor of Information Technology.
Fantastic. Now, you're leading a project to develop an augmented reality history sharing application, or app, and for which you received $45,000 in funding from New Zealand On Air's Digital Media Fund.
Yeah.
No mean feat. How did you come to get this?
So, being a student at MIT, I have a lot of connection with the tutors, obviously, and one in particular, Claire Atkins, who's the senior lecturer at MIT. came across the Digital Media Fund, and after I'd completed a augmented reality application for NMIT, which took content from the museum, 3D models from the museum and content from the Suter Gallery, and displayed them at NMIT, so people could walk around with their iPads and view the models as if they were actually there. And after she saw that and came across the Digital Media Fund, she thought it would be really good for me to go for it if I had any ideas. And I'd been speaking with the museum previously about using their historical photographs and putting them around Nelson, and two and two together, and we got a great idea to put a proposal together, and I approached all the partners. So we've got NMIT has been a big help, the museum of course, the council who help run the Prowl website, historical website for Nelson. Everyone came together, and myself and Matt Peace, who wrote the proposal, sent it off to New Zealand On Air, and we've got the funding. So.
Fantastic. Now, for those who don't know, what exactly is an app?
An app is short for application. Application refers to any sort of program that's running on a computer. The more modern version of the word app is generally pointed towards smartphone apps and tablet apps, basically because of the large companies creating app stores. So they sort of started that word app, and yeah, it's basically any small sort of program that you can run on one of these devices.
Excellent. And what about augmented reality? What's that?
Augmented reality is the combining of the digital world and the real world. So we've been doing this for quite a while now with audio. Just putting your iPod on and listening to music. You're adding digital content to the real world. Augmented reality is most commonly known for the visual aspect, and that's come about since mainly for the large population, so the late 2006, 2007, since the iPhone came out. That's when we had enough power in a small device to actually run these applications. And since then, obviously, the power has grown significantly, and we can do some pretty cool things now. They focus at the moment on iPhones and tablets, where you can look at magazines or posters or live scenes, and digital content such as models, videos, pictures will appear as though they're actually in the real world. What we can do now is take a digital scene, so we capture all the points in a scene and attach digital content to that. So when you actually look at a scene, that image or that model or animation or anything appears as though it's in the real world. And like I said, it's stuck to phones and iPads at the moment, but very soon glasses like the ones you're wearing now will have screens in, and you'll be able to have just digital content popping out anywhere. Pretty cool.
Fantastic. Now, specifically related to this app, it's been dubbed HEART, hasn't it?
Yes. Heritage
Education Augmented Reality Tours. Now, you're going to use this technology to share the Nelson Tasman region's history and stories in such a way it will especially appeal to young people, is that right?
Yeah, so this is building on an education program that the museum is currently running, where they're taking students out around Nelson with photographs of historic buildings and places around Nelson, and comparing what the city looks like now with what it used to 100 years ago or longer. So what we're trying to do is take that project and build on it and bring it into the 21st century, so that students can have a sort of a more interactive approach. But the benefit of it is it's not just restricted to museum participants. Schools will be able to use this, members of the public, tourists, anyone will be able to download the app and go and experience our history, which is pretty cool.
And so how do people download it?
So we're planning to release it in both the Android, the Google Play App Store and the Apple App Store, so they'll be able to just go through their devices and download it.
So what devices do they need to have?
We haven't started building yet, so we're not sure how far back sort of the versions will go. But any sort of smartphone device that's GPS enabled will probably be able to handle it.
Excellent. So you're the founder of KiwiAR. That's a fascinating name. How did you come to that name?
Well, KiwiAR is quintessentially a New Zealand brand. We're quite proud of being in New Zealand, and we want to stay here. Obviously, just adding AR on the end stands for augmented reality. Augmented reality is what we want to have as the bulk of our applications that we build. KiwiAR is a social enterprise, so we're based our values and our products on things that make a difference for New Zealanders and the community. The social aspect of what we're doing is quite important. We've startup at the moment, so we've only got a few members of the team. There's myself, Paul Devine, who's an MIT employee at the moment, that will be coming on as our sort of lead designer. We've got Patrick Stobie, who's a programmer and a fellow student of mine, and he'll be coming on as our sort of lead programmer. And then we've got our obviously partners and things as well for the project, which is really good.
Awesome. Now, when is your application being launched?
So we're aiming for a launch date of the 14th of February, I believe. There might be a week either side of that, but sort of mid to early February would be key.
Awesome, so people can download it on Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
perfect.
Definitely.
Wonderful, congratulations.
Thank you.
After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.